the people of Mecca were afraid that they have turned into enemies, for those with whom they had confederated before, and attacked the Muslims in Medina. The greatest threats for the people of Mecca were the people of Taif, a city just beside Mecca. Meanwhile, a scout of the Muslims informed the messenger of the God that the people of Taif have prepared 20,000 soldiers to attack Mecca. If the messenger of the God leaves Mecca, with Muslim armies of Medina, it would be a great danger for the people of Mecca, and the new Muslims. The messenger of the God decided to solve the matter by either diplomacy or war, and prepared the Muslims for both. The messenger of the God requested the new Muslims to join with the army of Medina, and as there were no casualties in the conquest of Mecca, 10,000 soldiers were already prepared. The newly converted 2,000 Muslims joined the army, making a total of 12,000 Muslim soldiers. The messenger of the God requested the polytheists of Mecca to share their swords and armor with the Muslims, if they don't want to participate for the siege of Taif. The polytheists of Mecca agreed to share their swords and armors on the condition that these swords and armors should be returned to them, and if there should be any loss of the sword and armor, they should be paid justly for the loss, and the messenger of the God agreed to the condition. 19 days after the conquest of Mecca, 12,000 Muslims marched for Taif. To the surprise of the Muslims, the people of Taif attacked the Muslims before reaching Taif, at a valley called Hunain. The soldiers of Taif were hiding on the top of the mountains and waiting for the Muslims. The soldiers of Taif were showering arrows from every direction, and vigorously attacking the Muslims. The Muslims began to retreat. But by the call of the messenger of the God they reformed together and fought back. This time the soldiers of Taif started to run away, and the Muslims were chasing them. The soldiers of Taif left their children and women back, and ran into their fort inside the city to save their own selves. 6,000 men, women and children were taken captive by the Muslims. The Muslims surround the forts of Taif for 20 days, and left on the condition that, if anyone accepts Islam, they should be left free, and if the people of Taif causes further trouble for the people of Mecca, or the Muslims, then the Muslims would return to avenge. The Muslims returned to Mecca. They performed the Hajj. Then they returned to Medina. The 6,000 captives were living with their Muslim households under the conditions of Islamic captivity. And no one from Taif tried to free or ransom their families. After all these events, the relation between Mecca and Taif got better with time, as Taif and Mecca were business states, and they had good commercial trades. When the relation between Taif and Mecca got better, the people of Taif had a grand opportunity to learn about Islam, and majority of the people recognized the truth about Islam, and rejected their pagan and polytheistic way of life, and accepted Islam. And 11 months after the siege of Taif, the people of Taif went to Medina and informed the Muslims about their acceptance of Islam, and the Muslims returned all the war captives of Taif back to their families. Initially, many of the captives were reluctant to return to their families, as they had accepted Islam, and didn't want to return to a polytheistic society, but when the captives learned about the acceptance of Islam of the people of Taif, the captives rejoicingly returned to their families.